And welcome back, everyone. Today is round number 3 of the Austrian Chess Championship, and I'm gonna play against none other than my longtime student, Peter Balint, who is one of Austria's most talented young players. He is now, I believe, 14 or 15 years old. I think 15 already. And I've been coaching him for the past 3 years, and it was always great to just see his development. And by now he's already reached 2400. So it's gonna be an exciting game. I also played him recently in Blitz, where he beat me for the first time. So yeah, and we never played in classical, I believe. So this is our first classical game. Of course, I'm gonna try to stand my ground as as the coach, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. This is also the first time I'm gonna publish like a video before the game of my impressions, since some of you have asked about my routine and how everything is working here. So just to briefly tell you on how I approach the preparation. In general, since most of the rounds are going to start at 5 p.m. starting from today, the first two rounds start at 3 p.m., but that means it's going to be quite late, and I typically don't do any preparation in the evening whatsoever, just to get some good rest in the evening and just to relax, because I just have the feeling like that the preparation in the evening is just gonna hinder me from getting good sleep, and anyway my focus after the game is probably not where it should be. So I'm usually just doing the preparation in the morning. So now we have 12 in the midday, and I still have like 5 hours until the game starts. Since today it's gonna start at 5 p.m. I typically wake up at like 9:30, quite late, or even 10 today, just because it's taking all quite long in the evening with recording and editing and publishing. And after that, I always like to relax a little bit, watch some documentaries on YouTube, or read a book or whatever, just something which is not necessarily connected to chess. So that's my strategy, and I think it could also be quite helpful to many of you, that you just try to not prepare too much. I'm generally trying not to prepare longer than 2 or 3 hours for every game, especially not too much with the engine, because especially with my work with Hare Krishna, who told me that it's not the best decision, probably, at least for most players, to analyze too much with the computer before the game starts. The main reason for that is that you kind of lose the touch for practical play. Of course, sometimes you do need the engine to check some lines if they do work nicely, but you just really shouldn't lose the practical touch of the game, especially if the game is starting quite soon. So that's quite important, especially for my routine. And when it comes to other things, I went for one longer run so far, and for one workout in a calisthenics park. The issue here is that there is no gym in the hotel, which I was also aware of, but I didn't really find an affordable hotel that has a gym. So that was an issue. But I made like a list of things which I want to do during that event, which is actually another nice topic to touch on, I believe. So I worked with a sports psychologist before the event. One sports psychologist which I've already worked for many years, and maybe I can make another separate video on that after the event. But there were a couple of things which he told me which are quite useful. So about the routine, he told me to kind of think everything through before the event. And there were a couple of things which I kind of wrote down and really want to implement. The first one is that I want to go to bed at 12 p.m. the latest, on at least on most days. He also said that there's kind of this 80-20 rule, that you cannot do it perfectly on every day, but that you should kind of keep it under control. The last 2 days I didn't manage to do that, just because everything took a bit longer, but still I tried to go to bed at a reasonable time, just because I feel a lot fresher then. The second thing was to keep my workout regimen more or less strict, which means that I kind of do it like I do it at home, which means that I'm working out like 3 or 4 times per week. Every day is simply not always possible. And another thing is that I don't really like to do any physical exercise before the game start, because at least for me personally, then I sometimes feel a little bit tired. But after the game, it's very nice for me, because then I can just fully reset, and it gives me just a good feeling after the game to get my mind off of things, to get in some physical exercise. But that was, I think, the most important things. Diet was another thing which some of you mentioned in the comment section, which I'm also trying to keep quite as clean as possible, especially before the game. That's usually my strategy, that before the game I don't eat any sweets or unnecessary sugars whatsoever. But after the game, I sometimes indulge in some dessert or something like that, just because, why not? And it makes me happy, so why shouldn't I do it? But before the game, I think it's not the best, at least for me specifically, just because if you eat too many sugars before a game, I feel like my energy and my focus just goes down quite significantly. So that's another one of my strategies when it comes to diet. And apart from that, just high protein and not too many unnecessary carbohydrates as well. That's kind of my diet anyway. But yeah, the video has already it's already about 6 minutes now, so probably I'm gonna see you after the game, unless there will be something in between which I want to share with you. But I'm gonna head on with the preparation now, and I'm gonna see you guys later. And welcome everyone to the recap of game number 3 of the Austrian Chess Championship. Today I played against my student Peter Balint with a FIDE rating of 2354 and a live rating already above 2400. He had a very good tournament recently. And he's also one of my students, so of course it's not fantastic to play against people you're working with, but there's also not much you can do about it. You just have to accept the situation how it is. The game itself was not so great. Today I'm not really happy about how it went. I got a pretty normal, decent position after the opening, but just didn't really feel the position enough, didn't really understand the plans. So how the game was going, how I was feeling, I was actually quite happy to get away with the draw in the end. But let's have a look at the opening stage at first. So I had white and I went for c4 today. He went for c5, knight f3, knight f6. So we got this symmetrical English position. And here he played not the main move, which is e6, but instead he played the move queen b6, which is quite interesting. And I was actually the one to show him that line as well. I did prepare it a little bit before the game, but maybe not as much as I should have, because the main line goes knight b3 and then black goes e6 typically, and has some concrete play with d5 coming soon. The main line goes, I think, a3, d5, and bishop e3, but I didn't really fully want to go into that. So before the game, I was quickly checking e3, and I just played it in the game because it also felt quite reasonable. e6 and now bishop e2. In general, of course, the setup with e3 is not the greatest, but also black's queen is a bit misplaced on b6, and therefore I'm just kind of arguing that I can allow myself to play e3 here if black went for queen b6. I went bishop e2. Another move which I quickly checked before the game was bishop d3, which also seemed quite interesting. The point is that black cannot really take on d4 that comfortably, because the queen is going to be exposed and white has many ideas like knight b5 or bishop e3. But also after bishop d3, like in a position like this, it's also not entirely clear if the bishop is really any better on d3, because at some point this pawn on d4 might also be hanging. And it's not so clear how I'm going to develop. Maybe with b3 here that would look sort of reasonable. But I went for bishop e2, and now he went bishop e4, which surprised me a little bit. I knew that bishop e7 was still the move, and I think after castle I was looking at b3, and somewhere around here I stopped. It's anyway not a big advantage or anything for white, but I was just looking to get a solid game and then just to take my chances.
But he went for bishop b4, and after short castle, anyway, he cannot really take on c3 because then all of the dark squares are going to be very weakened. And I'm just going to play bishop a3 next, for example, castle and bishop a3, then knight b5, or even knight b5 immediately. I'm not entirely sure, but it just felt like it should be quite good for white with those weaknesses in black's camp. But he went for short castle, and now he allows me this knight a4 move, which, yeah, with the bishop being on e7, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. But here I get this extra move a3, so that's why bishop b4 was probably not the best for him. Here I spent quite a lot of time. I went a3 in the end, but I spent quite a lot of time on b6, on c5, which is kind of trapping the bishop on b4 for the moment, but black can play b6, and now the bishop is getting out again. What I didn't like here was that after the knight takes c6, this was the only move I considered. Computer says that there are also other moves, like I think queen c2 was possible as well, but I didn't really understand that. I was just calculating knight takes c6, and if d takes c6, I would have been kind of happy, because then after a3, I thought that this position is just a bit better for me, because I'm probably going to win the c5 pawn, and my two bishops are going to be quite nice. But my problem was queen takes c6 in this position. And, well, if I take on b6, then I just don't have anything. Maybe black is already better because, yeah, my knight is misplaced, bishop b7 might be coming. And bishop f3 never does anything because black can, at the minimum, go d5. Of course, here queen takes a4 would also work. So here bishop f3 and then knight d5, and this was my issue, at least in the game, and I didn't see how to continue, because if I give up this bishop, then also my light squares are going to be very weak. And yeah, for example, again, a position like this with d4 to come, this diagonal opening up, I didn't really want to allow. The computer says that e4 is good, and after knight f6, now bishop g5. This is a move I didn't see at all. I only considered e5, knight d5, and here again I stopped. Because I didn't really see why this should be any good for me. I've also created some weaknesses, and I'm not really fully developed. But bishop g5 is apparently good, and now I'm threatening to take here and go e5. But still, also here black can play on with e5, and the position is just a complete mess. So that's the explanation why I didn't go for c5, but instead a3, bishop b7, and now b4, very natural. He went for b6, and now all of a sudden we have some type of hedgehog structure, but yeah, with kind of a strange piece coordination. Typically the knight is on d7 and not on c6, and also my knight on a4 is a bit funny. I felt like I should be a little bit better here, but it was quite difficult, as we will see, to sort of figure out the correct plans. I went for knight b5, which is still decent. I could also go for rook c1 first, but my idea was that I don't want him to allow to get the queen back to b8 with the rook being on c8 already. So that's why I started with knight b5. He sort of has to go queen b8, otherwise I might get knight d6 in. And now I went rook c1. I might have, or should have perhaps, played it a bit faster with a move like c5. Because if black manages to consolidate, it was very difficult to find the right plan. And with c5 I can sort of think to immediately strike. And probably black has to take here, and now knight takes c5. And I might have some advantage here. I just realized that I think bishop a6 was a good move at that moment. Not taking here. This might be something for white. Even though, yeah, also difficult to say. Shouldn't be too bad for black either, even if he goes for something like d5 just to protect d7. But I have some tactics, yeah. So for example here I could have knight d7 with a fork. So maybe this might have been a better try, at least practically. I went rook c1, which is even objectively the best move, but after rook d8 here is kind of a critical moment. And I spent a lot of time here over the last next moves, which was also not great. But I just didn't see the right plan at all. Didn't manage to see it. And I think it's also quite difficult. I don't know, you guys tell me, but f4 is the best move here. And now when I see it, it does make some sense, but still, honestly, I don't really have any bad thoughts about not finding this during the game, because yeah, I'm not I'm not that good to find the move f4. I just didn't think about it at all. The main point is that I'm just avoiding knight e5. And then I'm gonna play bishop f3 in the next move, and then maybe queen e2, and then I should be slightly better. But yeah, I didn't see that in the game. Instead, I went bishop f3. Apart from that, there were also quite some other moves which I considered. For example, queen b3 to develop like this. But what I generally didn't like here is that if he gets knight e5, then the knight often goes to either g4, I thought could be one idea to threaten checkmate on h2. Or also knight g6, knight h4 is an idea. And I didn't really see what my pieces are doing now on the queen side, and I thought that black is launching quite some nice play on the king side. The computer still gives some edge for white, but I don't really believe in that so much, at least practically speaking. For example, here knight g6, knight h4 will come, and black just has quite a lot of attacking chances, I believe, on the king side. Another move I considered was h3, just sort of waiting around, but my problem was h6 here, actually. Which I'm not sure if he would have played. Probably h3 would be the most practical move, just to play it quickly. The point is that whenever black goes a6, then I want to move back the knight, and now I'm arguing that the pawn on b6 is a little bit weak. There was another idea which I often considered, which is knight takes b6, which I believe sometimes works, but sometimes I just wasn't sure about it. For example, here after take, I'm not sure, but knight a5 or knight a7, just as an illustration. About a position like this, I was not sure at all, like what is going on here. Here b5 might be weak specifically, but even if I get a4 and queen b3, I didn't understand anything there either. Like it was just so difficult to evaluate this type of position. So I didn't really want to enter that. Anyway, after h3, h6, then if he would have played it, I would need to go for some f4 once again, probably. That's just the right plan. But he went rook d8, bishop f3 is the move I played, and after d6 now I went knight d4. Here, as you can see, I spent a lot of time, more than 20 minutes on this decision, which I'm quite upset about, but I was just sort of in a mental blockade at this stage because I didn't see like how to place my pieces at all. Once again, I could make a move like h3, but all of a sudden at some moment black might play a6, and yeah, it was just not a great day overall. I think that's kind of the key message. So I just tried to play for simplifications already with knight d4. But in a position like this, of course, it's still, I realized it has to be completely equal. But for some reason, I was just getting more worried about the c4 pawn. And yeah, I took on b7, which was probably also not the most accurate. Knight c3 was my first instinct, but I think after rook c8, knight b5, queen b8, I just felt a bit ridiculous with all the knight moves which I made, like knight to a4, then back to c3, then back to b5, with the other one going to b5 and d4 back. And yeah, but this would have been the best. I even saw something like this with knight takes d6, but somewhere along those lines I missed something, that this probably just should be a draw. Yeah, also I wasn't sure about a6 here, I think, because if knight a4, then maybe knight d7 works. But yeah, the position is just completely equal. I was just in not such a great mental state for some reason at this stage of the game. So I took on b7, played queen b3. At least I tried to speed up my moves now, because I realized that I'm just running way too low on time. So now I made some quick moves, which I think at least was kind of a good thing, because yeah, what often happens is in this type of situations, even if you're playing against a lower rated opponent, that you just completely lose focus once you start, I don't know, not finding the right plan. So I just really focused on still trying to make some normal moves which don't blunder anything, and then I thought I should be able to hold the game comfortably. So rook c8, bishop b2, now he went knight d7, which I was a little bit surprised to see. I thought he would go rook c7, just trying to double the rooks. And here I was actually ready to go knight c3, and if a6, probably I would have gone knight b1, which of course is a little bit, well, not a little bit ugly, it's just super ugly. But I'm just bringing the knight to d2 to protect c4. I could also go knight e2. The position is slightly worse, but yeah, I should be able to hold with precise play. But he went knight d7, now rook fd1, a6, and now I went back knight c3. The computer gives the move queen c3, which I also considered in the game, but again, it just looked so strange to play like this. I mean, I'm just basically playing for For the checkmate threat, maybe after bishop f8 I have some tactical ideas with rook takes d6. I was also not sure about this at all because black also has some play with b5. Yeah, I'm not sure how this would play out. Probably knight c5, take here, maybe rook d6. This also looks quite unpleasant for white, but maybe it's a draw in the end. I don't know, something like this maybe. But it looks like black is winning this pawn. At least that was not with my quick calculations. Probably I missed something on the way. But I also thought about knight f6 here, and now I just have to go queen d3, which is also kind of a little bit sad. So I just decided to regroup my knight already. The knight was anyway not doing much on a4 anymore. And here he played b5, which I pretty much underestimated. I mean, it's a very typical idea, of course, but I thought if I can trade some pawns, at least my position is going to be easier to defend, which might be the case. But on the other hand, this type of position is also still, yeah, I have to be a bit careful here, definitely. Yeah, but still, I probably have to take here, and yeah, but b5 is definitely not a bad move. I mean, I was just considering for him to play something like rook c7 and rook c8. Which I thought, at least practically speaking, is a bit more difficult for me to handle, because c4 is just going to be very weak. But he played b5, I took everything and went a4, takes, rook b8, I think the best try, just going after this b4 pawn. I went bishop c3, d5, and now rook b1. Queen b5 blockading the b pawn, and now bishop e1. So this was the type of defensive setup which I wanted, just to have the bishop back on e1, defending b4. And I thought with precise play I should be able to hold this. But of course the position is just slightly better for black. He went h6, and now I went knight b2 immediately. It was not so easy for him also to find a plan here, because once he goes rook c8, we thought that now knight c3 works. Because after queen b4 I have knight takes d5, and if queen b3, knight e7, king f8, it was rook b3. At the end it should be a draw, if I'm not miscounting, because black cannot take on b3 due to knight takes c8, and yeah, this would be a draw. So that's why he probably cannot go rook c8 easily. I mean, he can still go for something like queen c4 here, but then I'm in time to push b5, and then I should be sort of probably out of the danger zone. So that's why he went h6, just making some luft, and maybe I should have played h3 here just to sort of ask what his idea is. And maybe knight e5 he could try, but again, once this knight moves, then I might have this idea as well. It's maybe interesting to point out why it doesn't work immediately, because if I go knight c3 now, then queen b4, knight d5, I thought that here he has queen b3, knight e7, king f8, take, and was it this one? Yeah, knight c6 and then rook c8. I think that was my calculation. And in the end, I thought I'm an exchange down after rook d7, rook c6. Hang on, is there knight a5? Does that actually work? That would be so beautiful. I don't see why not. I think this looks like a draw. Let me just quickly check. Ah, okay, it's losing. So rook b5, rook d7, and then I'm just losing due to the first rank. Okay. I thought this would be a draw, then it would be beautiful. Anyway, as you can see, I'm not in the best stage today with missing those calculations. But anyway, let's finish the game analysis. So h6, I went knight b2, knight c5. He cannot take on b4 yet because I have knight d3. And if he takes on e1, I'm going to take on b5. And in the end, I would even be an exchange up. So he went knight c5, queen c2, knight a6, knight d3. We concluded in the analysis that maybe knight e4 would be a better try here. It's still not entirely clear. I should also be sort of right, but black has ideas like this perhaps, and then to go bishop f6. And it's not so easy for me to move any pieces. If rook c1, then maybe he could go rook c4. But he went knight a6, going after this pawn, knight d3, rook c8, queen a2, and now after rook c4, I was quite happy to play queen a5. In general, I should point out that at some moment, I think it was possible, it was actually here, after queen a5. It looks like maybe black could take on b4, but I thought now I can take here and now go rook b3. And at least in my eyes, it seemed like black is going to lose some material because of the pin here, with rook b1 to come in the next move. So therefore I was happy to be able to exchange queens, and now again we see the same motive because black cannot take on b4 due to the pin after rook b1. So Peter played f6, now went rook a1 and offered a draw, which he accepted. Still, he cannot take on b4 because of rook b1, so he would have probably had to go knight c7 back or rook c6. And generally, I felt like the position should be sort of an easy draw for me, but it felt still a little bit unpleasant, so that's why I offered a draw. My opponent accepted it since he felt like most of his advantage was gone anyway. So yeah, that was kind of the conclusion of today. Again, I have to say I'm not really happy of how the game went. I'm not sure what was the exact reason. Maybe this 5 p.m. round was a little bit difficult for me to handle, but it's not an excuse at all because all of the other players had to deal with it as well. So it's just my own business for trying to figure things out how it might work better. But overall, I mean, the tournament is still not far gone. Still only 3 rounds have been played, and I'm on a score of +1, which I think is still quite decent overall. We do have, I think, 2 leaders now with +2, which should be Dominik Horvath and Valentin Dragnov. But yeah, as I said, the tournament is still long, and even the favorites, I believe, can definitely lose to some of the lower-rated players in the event, since the lower-rated players are also strong players in all of the cases. Anyway, that was the analysis for today. I hope you guys anyway enjoyed it and found some value in this analysis. And yeah, that's it for today, and I will see you tomorrow.